Shabbat Shalom. This week was tough for the Jews. It was tough on anyone who cares about Israel. On Tuesday, 21 IDF soldiers were killed when the building they were in Gaza was targeted by Hamas RPGs. 21 beautiful souls gone. Seems like everybody I know in Israel has a funeral to attend. And this week, of course, we waited with bated breath to see if Israel would be declared guilty of genocide, not the Hamas government/terrorist organization that states in its charter its intention to commit genocide. No, Israel. And as the days dragged on and the world awaited the ICJ ruling, I don't think I know many of our folks or our allies who felt optimistic. And of course, this morning we learned that it would be kind of a mixed bag. Surprisingly, the ICJ did not call for Israel to immediately desist in the war to recover the hostages, did not call for a ceasefire, which, if it had found clear proof of genocide, it would have done. And it also issued a statement that it is gravely concerned for the hostages taken on October 7th by Hamas and other armed groups and called for their immediate and unconditional release. It also said that Israel must increase the effort to prevent civilian casualties in Gaza, which shouldn't be hard since they've been doing so. That more humanitarian aid must be let through. They didn't mention whether or not Hamas could continue to shoot the Gazans who tried to access that aid. And that inflammatory statements by Israeli officials must be reined in. Just the Israeli ones. Nobody else. Okay. It's been a week. It's been a week for the Jews. Is anyone else tired? Anyone else tired? I'm tired. Are you tired? Yeah, I knew it wasn't just me. I'm tired, man. I'm tired of us having to prove to the world that we deserve to live just because we're Jews, even though we're Jews. I'm tired of having to be thrilled that the International Court of Justice did not outright declare Israel's actions to be genocide. I am tired of having to see headlines come out of Israel, yet more soldiers' deaths, more civilians in the north and the southern border regions under rocket attack and the threat of a land invasion. I'm tired. I am tired of the UN. Just this week, the Secretary General announced that he's going to skip the International Holocaust Remembrance Day event this year, held at Park East Synagogue. It's an Orthodox shul on the Upper East Side in New York. Because, if I can interpret his statement correctly, this year the whole thing is just a little too Jewish. Never mind that the UN Secretary General always goes to the International Holocaust Remembrance Day event. This year he said, it's just a little too Jewish. I'm tired. I'm tired of the fact that there are still 136 hostages held by Hamas and their thug buddies. Hostages whose posters at Harvard this week were vandalized with graffiti, written over the faces saying fake and 9/11 truth now. And on a poster with the baby Kfir Bibas, head still on. I'm tired this week. You guys, I'm tired. When will this long winter be over? When will the darkness cease and the sun shine again? Now, I'm not one of them, but there are those who believe there is no such thing as a coincidence. And this week, just yesterday, in fact, in the midst of a truly terrible week for the Jews, yesterday we celebrated a holiday, Tu B'Shvat. Now, if you missed it, there was an awful lot of hullabaloo going on, so you would be forgiven. And in fairness, it is what we call a minor holiday. This is not to demean it. It's just not a big deal. It's not like a high holiday, you know? We have 4 Jewish New Years. This is one of them. It's the New Year of the trees. Now, its roots, pun intended, thank you, go deep. About 2,000 years. Our ancient rabbis saying that was the day to tally all of your fruit tree tithes and bring them to the temple in Jerusalem, because that was where the center of Jewish life was 2,000 years ago in Israel, just saying. Anyway, in modern times, we don't have a temple. And Tu B'Shvat has become kind of a fun holiday. You know, you eat different fruits and you drink wine, maybe you go clean up a park. And I'm not saying don't do those things. Those are good things to do. Those are good Jewish values. And look, I am someone who has led many a Tu B'Shvat Seder. I have brought plenty of groups to do park cleanups. I've created lots of fun kids programming all centered around Tu B'Shvat. I've just always thought of it as kind of a fluffy holiday. If I'm being really honest, you know I strive for honesty with you. And I've always kind of struggled, honestly, to connect with it as a modern Jew, because look, the ancient rabbis who created it were very clear. It's about tithing the produce from your trees, but we don't do any of that stuff anymore. So it's hard not to think, what can I get out of this Tu B'Shvat experience? But this year, this week, this very tiring week, I got a whole new perspective on this holiday and a teaching I learned about Tu B'Shvat a long time ago. The ancient rabbis, 2,000 years ago, they were discussing it. They said, Shvat Rosh Hashanah Le'ilan, the month of Shvat, is the new year for the trees. Matama. Why? Because it doesn't actually make any sense, darn it. It's the middle of winter out there. I don't know if you noticed. It's the middle of winter. You ever been to the Middle East? You know, the region the ancient rabbis spoke about, because that's where we're from. You ever been to Israel in January, February? Anyone? Is it lovely? Is it the best time of? No. Ugh. If someone said to me, Sarah, I'm going to go to Israel for the first time, what time of year should I go? I would not suggest midwinter. It's cold. It's really cold, and it's wet. Israel is like the rest of the Middle East. It's in its rainy season. And to that point, the trees right now, they look awful. No offense, but they're bare. There's no leaves. There's no fruit. They look cold. So why, in God's name, do we celebrate Tu B'Shvat, the holiday of fruits, of first new leaves, of new life on the trees, when they're totally barren? It's Rashi, that medieval French rabbi, with the answer. And I'd learned this a long time ago, but I'd never, internalized it, I guess. Rashi says that it's on Tu B'Shvat, the new year of the trees, celebrated in the dead of winter. It is on Tu B'Shvat that the sap starts to rise in the trees, unbeholden to the naked eye. From the outside, we see what looks like a leafless, fruitless tree. It's barren, dead. But on the inside, the energy, the lifeblood is flowing. You can't tell yet. To the outside world, those trees look beaten, but they know they are building their strength. They are preparing for spring, a spring so glorious. And it is then that they will bud, and they will blossom, and they will bloom. My friends, I know you are tired. I know because you tell me, and because I see it in your faces. I know because I feel it too. Tired of death, the death of all innocent people, tired of destruction, of injustice, tired of having to fight, tired of empty seats at dinner tables, tired of empty spaces in our hearts. But I think about the site of the Nova Massacre, the Peace and Music Festival that became the place of the slaughter of hundreds. And this week, for Tu B'Shvat, the JNF invited the families of the more than 360 murdered, as well as survivors and their loved ones, to return to that site in the Be'eri forest. That had been a protected space, a natural space for hiking and biking, free and open to anyone. And in this place that had once stood for peace and nature and love, and had since been so defiled, these survivors and families this week for Tu B'Shvat planted trees. This was not a big publicity event. It was okay if you didn't hear about it. There was no stage erected. There were no speeches given. It was just the families planting in near total silence. Yifat Ovadia-Losky, the chairwoman of JNF, later said, in the place where they were slaughtered, new life will be planted. She said, planting trees symbolizes resilience and a steadfast commitment to life, even in the darkest of times. It's an embodiment of a community's determination to remember and to heal and to rebuild, transforming a space marked by tragedy into one of growth and renewal. How poignant and how poetic that these people who had lost so much would plant trees on Tu B'Shvat, the day we remember what appears from the outside to be beaten down and cold and defeated is on the inside gathering strength and is not dead but alive, and not just alive but preparing for a future not long from now that will be fruitful and glorious. enemies underestimate us. Hamas and all their ilk. They underestimate us, the Jewish people, our strength and our resilience. They forget that we stand on the shoulders of giants, all the generations that came before, your parents and your grandparents, and your great-grandparents, and every generation before them. We have all suffered terrible losses. But you are here because you are a descendant of survivors. Whether you were born of it or whether you came of your own free will, we are a community of survivors. It may look at times like we are beaten down, like we are down and out, that the world is against us and thus we will not prevail. But to be Jewish is to know, to celebrate Tu B'Shvat is to remember that how it appears to the outside is sometimes in opposition to what we know on the inside to be true. That we, all of us, possess the inner strength and the life energy that flows within, the knowledge that the future will be a glorious spring, even if it's a dark winter right now. This Tu B'Shvat, it is more imperative than ever before in my lifetime. It is more imperative than ever to remember our enemies' fatal mistake is that when they tried to bury us, they didn't know that we are seeds. Am Yisrael, Chai. Shabbat Shalom.